Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Wow, that was a weird intro. I thought I'd try something different. Hopefully everybody can see and hear me okay. Let me check my stats here. Yeah, it looks good. I need to have another window right here so I can look at the chat because I'm getting this crick in my neck looking this way. But welcome to my Tuesday live stream where we talk about photography, what's new, what's going on. Also catch up, see how you guys are doing. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Things have been going well here, moving along, getting some photo jobs, going on photo walks, taking some pictures, and I had a lot of fun. Well, I should have had more fun taking pictures of the laundromat this week. I've always wanted to do a laundromat ever since I saw what's his name, Carver, take pictures of just the exterior of the laundromat. And the exterior of this laundromat wasn't that interesting, but it looked like any other storefront on the strip mall. But uh, the inside, had all these machines, so there's a lot of opportunity there. But I did my job. I took pictures of the place, and when I do, uh, real estate photography, whether it's commercial or residential, my objective is not to do artsy fartsy kind of things. My objective is to let me just check, make sure I'm not getting any alerts about my text or my audio. But yeah, my objective is to accurately represent the property and to share as much information about the property as possible in a single picture or in every picture. And so that you pretty much end up shooting wide angle all the time, and including things in the scene that may not be photographically pleasing. So, or compositionally pleasing. And I try to make the composition as pleasing as possible, but you have to balance that with sharing information in the image so that any potential buyers looking at that picture will say, okay, there's the back door, there's a table here, this is the basic layout of the room, how do I get around? And with commercial property, when they're already fitted, like this was a laundromat built out, you have to make sure that you include enough information so that the buyer knows what they're getting when they purchase it. And versus vacant office type properties where there's nothing in them, a lot of times they're empty, particularly now. You have to represent the space in a way that they can imagine how they're going to refit the property, and not necessarily with the walls and doors and everything where they should be, because most office commercial property can be gutted out and rebuilt or refit to however the person moving in needs it to be. So getting the floor plan or the layout of the property is not as critical in vacant offices so much as it is in ones that are already built out to be sold turnkey, like this laundromat. It's basically a turnkey shop. Everything's there, ready to go. Let me. I need to put the chat at least close to where I can see it. The audio's out of sync. Yeah, just a little bit. I wish I wish I had time to diagnose that. Maybe I'll do that after this stream. Try and figure out where the syncing is happening. Is it on my end or is it on their end? Do I need to do plus or minus? On the sync settings. It's particularly out of sync when. Let's see. What can I do? Sometimes. At least the video's kind of smooth, right? It's not jerky. Let me. I don't. It's hard for me to tell from this end. I have to record and play back, record and play back until the sync is right. Okay. Let's see. There is some questions here. So that's my basic overview of how I approach shooting real estate. Is share as much information as possible so that the potential buyer has the information they need to make a buying decision, while composition and things like that are kind of secondary, and it becomes less important the more vacant or the kind of property it is. And let's see. Plato says you love the ones with perspective. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was it was a big laundromat, Marco. They had, let me see if I can pull it up this way. Oh, hey David, how are you? Andrew is here. Good to see everyone. And also, I'm going to put a link up so that maybe a little bit later in the stream, you guys can join in like we did last week. That was kind of fun. But let me just kind of get into a groove here, and then I can. Oh, I really have to rearrange my office again. And I cannot get the chat to come up. I'm having a hard time here. But I saw the comment by Marco somewhere about it being a big laundromat. I counted about almost 60. I mean, it was in the mid 50s at least. Dryers alone, over 50 dryers, closer to 60 dryers. And I would imagine they would need, more dryers than washers, right? Because dryers take longer typically. So even if it's half the number of washers, that's still like, 25 to 30 washing machines on top of that many dryers. I'll get the exact count and everything when they send me the property description, because I'm still working on the video for that property. It's pretty much done. I just need the specs so I can overlay some of the information about the property in the video. But wow, if they got if they have 75 machines and the average price is say $4,000 or $5,000 per machine, I mean that's a chunk of change just on the buying the equipment. Never mind the build out and installation and all of the permits and the drainage. They had to add drains to the centers of the floors in different places. I mean, it was a hardcore build out, and I'm curious what they're going to ask for it. Because they have $100,000 to $150,000 in equipment, probably another couple $100,000 in the build out, because it's 4,000 square feet total. It was shocking. All right, it says here, I heard on one of YouTubers' videos about the Panasonic 7 to 14 that realtors are forbidden to use ultra wide angle lens because it doesn't represent the space in its true size. No, that's not true. We use wide angle all the time, at least in this area. I mean, I haven't looked around the country, but a lot of the photographers, if they're using full frame, they're using 16 millimeter lenses, typically 14 to 16, and scale that down to APS-C and micro four thirds. Micro four thirds, I'm using 7 to 14. So I shoot at 7 millimeters, everything at 7 millimeters, which is a 14 millimeter equivalent. And then I crop in, right, to minimize that wide angle distortion, but also so I can frame the image the way I want and do other corrections that I need to, particularly the keystoning issues. However minor they are, you know, keystoning issues so that all the lines are straight, the angles are straight, best I can. And so there's no rule that I know of that says, the only rule really in real estate photography here is whether or not you get a job and people like your work. There are very specific rules about you can't misrepresent the property, right? Like you can't show things or alter things with Photoshop to make it look different. Like if there's a hole in the wall, for example, you can't Photoshop that hole in the wall out of the picture. So you have to be, things like that. Clearly misleading Photoshop things would be, against the rules. And, I don't think there's any law that says it has to be. If there is, fine. But basically, you have to follow the rules, whatever they may be. And the only significant rule really is don't misrepresent the property with respect to what's there. Don't hide holes in the wall or on the exteriors. You can't like add bushes and plants. I mean, you can do certain things like staging, right, where you can draw in furniture and other items that are non-fixtures, right, things that can be moved out of the property if needed. But you can't add permanent fixtures to the images. Like if the bathroom is missing a toilet, and I've taken pictures of bathrooms missing a toilet, you can't just add a toilet in there, right? With Photoshop, which can be done without too much difficulty with all the tech now. I've seen some amazing 3D artificial intelligence staging of properties, which are pretty amazing. They look legit, to the average person. I can spot them right away. I'm going to say, oh, that's fake, right? Because my eye is kind of trained for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I try to minimize any kind of distortions the best I can, so that the room doesn't look weird. Because it would be impossible to take a picture of a small room without a wide angle lens. All you would get is the corner. You would get like just one little corner of the room. You wouldn't see the whole room. And then to me, that would be deceiving, because people would think you open the door and there's a wall right there in front of your face like this, right? If you use like a normal 25 or 50 millimeter lens, that would be more deceiving than a wide angle lens that shows the entire room, with the windows there, the closet doors, whatever, the outlets in the walls. You'd be able to see all of that in a wide angle lens in a smaller room. Like even bathrooms, there's no way to take a picture of a small bathroom without a wide angle lens. So the idea that they're prohibited doesn't make any sense to me. And it's about a half a second delay. I'm just going to see. So my voice needs to be ahead a little bit. I don't know if I can fix that. Let me check the properties real quick. I don't have any delay set up. This is balance. This is monitoring. Let me pull off. I'm going to do a negative 100 milliseconds. Okay. Now I'm at a negative 100 milliseconds. See if that makes any difference. Here in Thailand is the Sync Superb. Oh, okay. And audio is perfect for Marco. And Plato is asking, oh, let me get to my other screen. Did I see Jimmy's video about the London photography? I did see it yesterday. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching that. It's he did a good job of making you feel like you were just walking along beside him and visiting the different vendors. And some of the vendors that he chose to sort of stop and talk to, I thought were pretty good. There's a couple of Kickstarter things. There was some camera there that I guess it develops the film inside the camera. I didn't quite understand that part, but it's basically a box pinhole camera with film, and it would develop the film and everything. I guess it's a portable darkroom to some degree. I don't know exactly how that worked, and it was reasonably priced, I guess, for what it is. And it was around $200, give or take. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But that's so niche. I just can't imagine a product like that. Very, very niche. Which I'll talk about another niche product. And then what was there? The cell phone adapter where it adds a shutter button and attaches devices. That reminded me of the Air A01, which actually I was playing with mine last night because I watched Peter's review or impressions on this thing. And I got mine a few months ago. I guess for those of you that were in the stream, you would know exactly when. I can't remember, but it was a couple months ago, I guess, maybe longer. I've had this. I got it for like $250, I think, including the lens, the 14 to 42 easy lens. So this thing was basically free, right? If you look at just retail prices. But anyway, back to the show. He looked at the 150 to 400 lens, and that thing is so expensive. I guess people that have it love it, but I can't imagine, even as an enthusiast, investing that much in a lens. You can get the 300 f4 Pro with an extender, and you're pretty close for half the price, right? In terms of reach. That's just, wow, that's crazy. And then Gavin Hoey, I saw Gavin Hoey there. If you guys haven't watched anything from Gavin Hoey, I think he's on Adorama, maybe B&H. I forget which one. He's on one of those camera store channels. He makes videos for them. And I guess maybe he's making videos for Olympus as well. But either way, he's a lot of fun to watch. So if you're already a fairly competent photographer, I think it's a great channel. He makes great videos. If you're an absolute beginner, he moves a little bit too fast, right, to kind of follow. But for most of us, his videos are going to be great. And what else was there? I just watched it yesterday, but I can't remember half the things. Yeah, I agree with you. The grip for the phones did look bulky. I agree with you on that. That's why a lot of these quirky cameras and niche products, I love to see innovation, and I love that they're doing all of these things, right? But I can't think of a making a business decision to make something like that where the demand is. I'm not I'm not doing market research and looking at trends and things like that. So maybe there is market demand for those kinds of things, but I can't imagine uh, which, yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about that. That's an interesting way to look at it, right? You could buy a whole camera kit with lens for the price of that one Olympus lens. Um, I can't speak to if that would be a good idea or not, relative, all things being equal, but there's lots of ways to slice and dice gear between camera bodies and lenses to kind of come up with an equivalent uh, uh, focal length and image quality, right? But as a system, what's the better choice? You can't look at just one specific need and say, I'm going to buy my whole camera system based on this one need, which I think is the mistake that a lot of, I'm not saying you drew it, obviously, but that's the kind of mistake I think a lot of people make is they think about one very specific need and they buy the camera system for that or switch camera system for that one thing, but they're not thinking about the entire system, like everything that they need to do with it, right? And I don't know. I mean, if you need one thing that's really good, uh, and that's all you need it for, great. But most of us need to do a lot of different kinds of photography or want to do a lot of different kinds of photography. And you might find that the system overall is not right. And that's why I love Micro Four Thirds so much. Is it's not the best at real estate photography. There are better systems out there, uh, clearly, But at the same time, I'm not using my camera just for real estate photography, right? I'm using it for other things, and the system overall is better for me. If I wanted to switch systems to something real estate specific, I'd probably get, a full frame camera with a 14 millimeter tilt shift lens and the flash lighting system would be pretty much the same, but I go full on that way. But in the end, and this answers this other question I saw here, um, from Thomas, is there a quality difference between cropping with an extender or cropping in post? Uh, I would imagine cropping in post would be worse. If you get a, I assume you're talking about the teleconverters, right? The 1.4x or the 2x. That's going to give you a better image than cropping in post, just from the sheer fact of the resolution. But I don't have extenders or fancy lenses to tell you firsthand if that's the case. I'm just speculating, right? I'm giving you an educated guess that 20 megapixels with the teleconverters is better than 10 megapixels uh, without, right? Assuming it's a 2x teleconverter, you can get the full 20 megapixels without it. You'd have to crop in down to 10 megapixels. So I would imagine 20 is better than 10, and that the any loss in image quality using a teleconverter would be pretty minimal to that respect. It wouldn't be half. I mean, you're not losing half your image quality by using a 2x teleconverter, right? Maybe you're not losing any, maybe it's better. Maybe you're losing 10%, but you're not losing 100%. You're not losing half your image quality, right? So just I'm like I said, I'm just extrapolating what would make sense. Get a 2x teleconverter or just crop and post. 2x teleconverter is going to give you better image quality. Just extrapolating from that without having firsthand experience, right? Um, and Adorama is Gavin, right? And Anne bought something. What did you buy? I was at the photography show. Really interesting talks and lots of opportunities to spend some money. Yeah. I met Jimmy, really nice guy who helped me with a couple of questions. I bought the OMD Mark III. Oh yeah. Excellent camera. Congrats. That is a great I love mine. I do. I use it primarily for my professional work, my real estate photography, and the random photo walk, but usually I take my Pen F out. And Druid says, for the simple reason, birding perspective, anytime you are shooting more than 800 millimeters and the subject is small, then there's going to be a lot of distortion. What kind of distortion are you talking about with a telephoto? I mean, I can imagine there's some atmospheric distortion because it's so far away. And then perspective distortion would be fairly minimal. I mean, it's going to be very compressed in the sense that you're not going to see. I mean, I can see a little bit of compression type things, and by compression, it's I'm use that term very loosely. It's not really compression, but that angle of view, very tight angle of view, wouldn't be so bad. I wouldn't call that distortion. If you could elaborate on that a little bit. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely some $10,000-$12,000 telephoto lens from full frame. Heck, I saw a $12,000 50 millimeter prime. I think it was a Leica. $12,000 for 50 millimeter prime, which looks exactly like my $250 prime from Seven Artisans, or vice versa. So now, when I saw that lens, the 50 millimeter Leica, uh, I think it was a 0.95 or something. I mean, it was a very similar 50 millimeter lens, but they looked identical side by side, the 50 millimeter Leica and the 50 millimeter Seven Artisans. So, you know, most likely Seven Artisans copied the cosmetic look of the Leica lens rather than the other way around. But yeah, $7,500 would buy a lot of gas. That's true. And absolutely, I panicked when Ali announced a sale to JIP and almost traded my gear. But once I really evaluated all the features I use and like, I couldn't find a good replacement. Yeah, I can't either. I can't think of any camera system that I would trade for. If somebody said to me, "You trade in everything you have, Micro Four Thirds, and I'll replace it with whatever system, full frame, APS-C." Well, I'll replace it with whatever system you want, like for like. If you have a 12 millimeter lens, I'll replace it. Say it's a full frame, I'll replace it with a 24 millimeter lens. So let's say we even swap like for like, right? Equivalent for equivalent. Uh, I don't know if I would do it even with something like that because I'd be giving up something. There would be a compromise somewhere that I'm not willing to take, right? Some people are willing to compromise size and weight, right, for sensor size, image quality, things like that. Others, I or whatever other feature might be available, like now I don't mind buying a single camera and lens in a different system. I've got a Fuji X-T30. I only have one lens for it and one adapted lens. And I have an adapter so I can put any of my lenses on there, my Nikon glass anyway. And I have the Panasonic S5 that came with the kit lens, and I bought an adapter so I can adapt all of my full frame Nikon F glass. But I've only bought one body, one lens, Fuji and Panasonic. And those things have been sitting in my dry box pretty much since I bought the camera. Actually, since I bought the dry box, I put them in there. But I can't remember the last time I took those out to shoot anything. It was it had to be fall of last year, I think, when I first got the S5, and the XT30 might have been spring of last year. I sigh because, it's kind of sad because they're fine cameras, but I, I I just don't see a need to use them for my general photography. I bought the XT30. That was just pure gas. I wanted to see what the film simulations were. I wanted firsthand, and that was a mistake buying the XT30. And the S5 I bought because at the time, man, I had video jobs lined up every week. So I was like, let me get a little competitive edge and up my video game a little bit so I can get cleaner images, with less noise, yada yada. And I think I've only had one or two video jobs since I bought that camera, and both times I used my EM1 Mark III because I just didn't feel like bringing two cameras with me. Bringing my EM1 Mark III, which does the photos, and the Panasonic to do video. I should have done it though for this laundromat job because the dynamic range was crazy. So I was shooting at like ISO 800, ISO 1600. I was shooting at pretty high ISOs uh, around the back, and then it would drop back down to the front. But so the images had a little bit of noise in them. I cleaned them up a little bit in post. You do some contrast and sharpening or de-sharpening, and it it cleans up well enough that once it's compressed down, because I shot everything in 4K. Once it's all compressed down to 1080p, the noise is not that noticeable. But the Panasonic S5 would have definitely gave me a much cleaner image. I just didn't feel like bringing two cameras, which that'd have been a good opportunity to test the S5 out because I haven't actually used it for anything. I think I've done one photo walk with it, and that's it. And Druid is confirming atmospheric haze, heat, etc. People tend to use long lenses and tend to shoot faraway subjects, which are tiny. Yeah. Okay, so we're on the same page. Yeah, I was thinking like atmospheric distortions, like heat and haze and things. So definitely. That's why I don't bother with high-res shot mode with telephoto, because it's kind of wasted when you have all this atmospheric distortion. And very difficult to control yourself and not shoot birds at 1,000 plus. Makes for bad images. At that range, the subjects better be, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Druid has some experience shooting birds because he's pointing out, some very some things that you wouldn't really know until you have a little bit of experience, right? Shooting birds and things. And Plato says, I'm not going back to full frame, even though the cameras are much smaller now and they even have small primes. Yeah. They're not like twice as heavy. They can be, you can probably ultimately find a full frame system that's only a little bigger than your Micro Four Thirds if you're very picky about buying things, right? Ultimately, though, I think the full frame system is still a much bigger system overall. But you can build a fairly lightweight full frame system, right? You get a compact body, you buy the compact primes and zooms, and you can build out, a relatively small full frame system. It's still going to be bigger than Micro Four Thirds, but not by much. Like that shouldn't be a deal breaker, right? If you're very selective. But that, like I said, then I'm compromising on some other things that I would not be able to do like I can do with my Micro Four Thirds. I mean, obviously, I don't keep up with the latest specs and what's going on with full frame cameras, but I can tell you I would have a hard time giving up Pro Capture, live composite, and the low light capability with respect to astrophotography, um, and for long exposures, because the sensor stays cooler. Most high end astrophotography sensors are Micro Four Thirds. They're the most popular ones because of their ability to stay cool and not introduce noise from heat. Ben Chappelle kind of turned me on to that. That's why he shoots Micro Four Thirds, and he's a hardcore astrophotography guy. And Dave Nelson's in the house. John Yutze, good to see you. Yeah, the bird eye track. I wonder how reliable that is, though, in real life. Because all of the tracking and tests that I've seen, and I've only seen a couple. It's not like I care what Sony's doing, so I don't. If I see a video, it's just by chance. But I don't know. I would be curious to see how in real life that works, because the testing that I've seen, they're focusing on birds at like the zoo or something, which anybody can do that. I can do that with my cell phone. Um, yeah, prices are insane. Prices are insane right now. I just, why are things 4,000, 6,000 or more, 3,000? You know, yeah, Nikon has a $1,300 full frame camera. Panasonic has a $2,000 one. Uh, and Canon, obviously, they have the RP, which has been discontinued, but they're going to follow that lineup. With some entry level camera. I don't know what their entry level is now, but I'm sure there's a $2,000 camera from Canon. But still, 2,000, 3,000. It goes up fast if you want any kind of performance in a full frame camera and features. And System Stores, the main issue for me, full frame, is the size and weight of the lens, in particular, and how much it would cost for an 800. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and total cost of ownership. So if you're comparing reach of the lenses that you get, right? Like a 75 to 300 lens is a 150 to 600 equivalent on full frame, right? Um, I mean, I just did a shot. Let me see if I can show you guys. Uh, oh, DeMorgan, you fix your computer. Good. And I'm going to put this up. I any views on using second shutter? I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by second shutter? If you're talking about anti-shock mode, it's better than standard shutter. But if you could elaborate what you mean by second shutter, I'm not sure exactly. Uh, where's my? I did get a chance to compare my 75 to 300 against the 75 to 300 against the 100 to 400, the Olympus one that David Crooks has. I only took one picture. He wanted his lens back like this, right? I said, oh, let me take a few shots with this. And I only got like 1 or 2 shots off before we decided to switch back. I let him borrow my 50 millimeter f9.5 just, for fun. And I never shot with the 100 to 400. But rather than looking for, I can tell you, the 100 to 400 was a little bit sharper than my 75 to 300. It wasn't like leaps and bounds sharper with the single shot that I took. So this is by no means a comprehensive, it's not a definitive answer to which one is sharper. The 75 to 300 was pretty close to the 100 to 400 at 300 millimeters. The difference in sharpness is so subtle. I wouldn't buy the 100 to 400 based off that one picture. But that's all I got is one picture. I'm still tempted by that lens, though. Good price for the M10 Mark III with a 14 to 150, maybe the Tamron version. I wouldn't pay more than 400 for an EM10 Mark III. And it'd have to be in mint condition. I'd pay less for something that's been used, even a little. And then with the lens, I don't know, maybe 500 for the pair would be a good price. That would be okay. But I don't know. Other people can chime in. Let me know. He lives here local to me in the U.S., so if you can quote in U.S. dollars, what do you think would be a good price? I don't have a feel for EM10 Mark III pricing, but I'm guessing around $500 would be good for the combo. Yeah, second shutter might be tough. Yeah, if you're talking about rear curtain sync, then it's just a technique. There's no opinion, right? It's like, do you need to use second rear curtain shutter or not? It's not a question I can give you an opinion on. It's just a matter of, do you need to use it or not, kind of thing, right? It's like asking me, is 1/60th of a second better than 1/120th of a second? Well, it's not a matter of one shutter speed is better than another. It's like, what's your use case, right? And the 100 to 400 might be okay. It's okay. It needs work in post. Yeah, like everything, because it's still a pretty high aperture, like f6.3 or something, right? So you need to be in really good light and or higher ISOs. And then if you're at higher ISOs, then of course you lose detail and you have to work in post to bring them back. So that's why I don't have a good comparison. I forget what ISO I was at. Let me see if I can find it. Let me use Lightroom because I can show them side by side. And what's this? I can confirm that Live ND filter on the M1 Mark III does not operate in video mode. That's true. It does not work in video mode. And need to reduce exposure as 1/50th of a second shutter speed for the C4K 24. Yeah, it doesn't. Live ND doesn't work in video mode. It's strictly a photo mode option. So you'll need to get an ND filter. That's why I don't really talk about the live ND too much, because an ND filter is still the better way to go, generally speaking. Live ND is nice when you can use it and you don't have an ND filter with you, but um, yeah, live ND's it's just one of those kind of neat features, but not, but it doesn't work in video. Rear curtain flash photography is a lot of fun, and you can get very artsy pics with that technique. Yes, front and rear curtain, either way, you can get cool shots. Um, a lot of times, rear curtain sync is good for uh, seeing the motion leading up to the subject, so to speak. Um, I teach a little bit of that in my flash photography class, actually. Did Lightroom come up or not? Let's see. So, Huntley Meadows. Oh, wow. I took actually quite a few, not quite a few, but let me see if I can pull this up now. Wrong screen. Monitor 2. Um, so here's so I have that. Let me change all these to red so I can spot them, and then raw. All right, so this one and this one, these two are comparable. So this is on my Pen F, right? The 100 to 400. Let me see. Let me close this. The 100 to 400 on the left at f6.3, wide open. What's the ISO? 2000, ISO 2000. So identical exposures, right? Except for the aperture. The minimum aperture was f6.7 on my 300. But if I punch in, and these are the unprocessed raws, you can see that, and I'm wondering if this is because of motion blur, because I'm at 1/200th of a second without the added benefit of the dual image stabilization that you get with the 100 to 400. But it's clearly sharper, right? Look at the pinholes here, the screws. It's clearly much sharper. Up here, it looks almost like motion blur, though, because of the shutter speed's too slow. But down here, it does look more like a sharpness thing, right? That in the center, the 100 to 400, what am I zoomed in? I'm at 100%. What if I go to 200%? So that's more obvious. So I'll let that stabilize for a second. But yeah, clearly the 100 to 400 is sharper, right? And if you have to crop in at all, like if there was a bird sitting right here, like look, there's the grasshopper's here, but not here. But I think if you were taking a picture of a small bird sitting on this weather device, you would get a lot more detail out of it than you would the 75 to 300. So those are the straight out of camera raws. And the rendering of the bokeh, it may be a little softer on the 400, but they're pretty close. I don't think I did any other comparison shots. I have this one. Yeah, I didn't do anything else. Like here's one I took with my 75 to 300. And if we look at the, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's a little soft, but it's not terrible, right? I cleaned this up pretty nicely in DxO. I didn't use Lightroom to process any of these. This is the final image with the, I'd have to export it, but the DxO Deep Prime cleaned up a lot of the noise and sharpened some of the details. But this image came out nice. But here's the straight out of camera raw, right? Even at 300 millimeters, and I'm at a relatively low ISO, is a tough shot. And my shutter speed was okay, 1/320th, so I think I'm okay there. Anywho, that was that. The grasshopper got eaten by a frog. Yeah, System Mature, man, you got that lens. You're so lucky. I don't think I would buy the lens, but I wouldn't turn one down if they wanted to give me one. Oh, you got a shot of the egret, right, David? Man, you want to talk about two peas in a pod? I got to show you this picture. Let me see if I can find this. But here's me and David Crooks, man, out shooting. You know where the weather station is over here to the left. I think we were taking a picture of that, or I was anyway. God, but we look so alike here. Like definitely two peas in a pod, and then the other one was let's see, there was two of them. I thought I saw another one. These are from the members. Yeah, this is another one. Me and David. At least here, I don't look so short next to him, man. In the other picture, I look like a shrimp next to him. I didn't realize you were so tall. But David's like 6 foot plus. I'm like 5'8" or something. But there we are. This one, yeah. In this shot here, this shot, I feel like I'm just a shrimp next to him. Look at the difference in height. This image was taken by David Tellett, which I saw you here earlier, David. This is a great shot. I love this. We both got our red caps on. You can tell my cap's a little bit newer than his. Mine isn't so faded. We have the same photo club hats. Anyhow, that was a lot of fun. I love going out on the photo walks and stuff. What happened to my... Okay, so Titty Totter's asking, any tips on using rear curtain sync on the EM10 Mark II with the Godox 350 for flash wedding dance floor technique? Great show is okay. That's a lot more specific. I think you're the same one that was asking about second curtain or second shutter. Yes. there's a couple of ways that are fun at a wedding, right? But you need to have decent ambient light or bring your own ambient light. And then to use the rear curtain sink, that's kind of in a fun way. I don't do weddings really, so I don't have any good examples. Let me see. I'm sure I can find one online real quick. Let me pull up something online. Let's see. And then I can talk about. I can give you some ideas here. So this is from one of my classes that I teach. Let me see, what slide is it? I think it's this slide. No. Let me see what this one is. No. All right, hold on. It's a different slide. Flash modes, curtain sink. All right, so this is a rear curtain sink shot, right? So there's enough ambient light to light the subject so that you can capture this motion, right? And then the flash fires at the end of the exposure. So this is a long exposure. They don't show the EXIF data, but I would imagine this is a 1 or 2 second exposure. And so just so that we're all on the same page, for people that are not familiar with what rear curtain sink is and flash photography, basically you take this would be a 1 or 2 second exposure in this example. And the ambient light illuminates the subject, and that's why you get that motion blur of the truck running, right? Or coming across. And then the flash fires at the end and freezes the action right there. So there's a couple of key elements here that you have to know about rear curtain sink. One is you have to have enough ambient light, but in a way and also have sort of a dark background, right? So that the ambient light is only lighting up the subject and not the rest of the background. That'll really amplify the effect. And then the flash fires here. So you have to have the right flash exposure. So you really want to be in manual mode so that you have the right flash exposure to expose the subject when it comes into the frame where you want it. But I'm going to assume you have that all set during the wedding. Usually once you set your flash power, it's very easy to adjust to make sure you have it correct for all of your shots, right? And then let me show you another more interesting example. This one here, right, is the same idea. What they did is they had a green light shining onto the dancer. And did they give the EXIF? So this is a 2 second exposure. So dark background, green ambient light, and then they had the flash exposure correct. So the dancer jumped into the air, and the green ambient light shined her dress and her body and everything to create this ghostly effect behind her. And then the flash fired and froze the action right there as she's, spreading out, right? So same key elements. You have a dark background and you have ambient light, just enough to light the subject, but not enough to overpower the flash. The flash has to be brighter than the ambient light, because otherwise she'd be green in the picture as well, because she'd be all ambient light. So that's why you have to shoot a manual. is you have to make sure your flash power is stronger than the ambient light so that it illuminates the subject, but not overpower and, overexpose the subject, right? So typically, and they probably did, they used a pretty high aperture, slow shutter speed, relatively low ISO. But they're at f9 for 2 seconds, so that's crushing the ambient light except for this green. And then, anyway, so that's the basic technique, right? Is she's moving through the air in a green light while the shutter's open, and the flash fires and takes this picture and freezes the action. So the shutter speed had to be pretty fast. Where is it? Now where's the shutter speed? Oh, 2 seconds. I'm sorry. The shutter speed was not. The shutter speed had to be pretty slow. I misspoke. The flash freezes the action, not the shutter. Now, one other thing you can do, and I've not done this myself, and I don't think I have a good example of it. Yeah, I don't have a good example of it. So I'll just have to describe it best I can. One other technique you can do is, that's what the camera, most likely on a tripod, right? Steady on a tripod or handheld, but you're very steady. The other thing you can do, right, is while people are dancing, a lot of times there's speculars in the background, like hanging LED lights or any kind of lighting in the background that's kind of specular, small lights, not big bright lights like a window or something, but small lights that would create speculars, candles, spotlights, things like that, different color lights, Christmas lighting, and usually those are out when people are dancing. What you can do is you can, for let's say you got the same 2-second exposure, what you do is you take a picture, but before you push the shutter, start rotating, push the shutter, continue rotating, then the flash will fire, right? So you do this, you click, and you rotate, click, and then the shutter ends and the flash fires. This will create a nice swirly effect in the background while freezing the subjects in the foreground. So you have the couple dancing in front of you, right? And you rotate the camera, that creates this swirly background, of speculars, which is really cool. But then when the flash fire, it freezes the couple dancing. So that's a pretty fun effect. Also, I wish I could demonstrate it here. What I'll have to do is I'll have to do a live stream where I teach flash photography, and do live demos and things, or make a video. I don't know, but that's another thing you can do. I can't find any good examples. Where's my camera? Let's see. Is any batteries? It's got nothing. Where is my camera? I mean, I got that one. Oh, it's right in front of me. Let's see. Go into manual mode. Set my shutter for 1 second. I'm just going to see if I can do it real quick. And I need my aperture. Yeah, that's better. And lock my ISO to 200. There we go. Set my shutter speed, or I'm sorry, my shutter mode. It was on self timer. I was doing some portraits. All right, that's good. All right, I can demo this a little bit. I just need my flash. All right. Turn this on. Where's my snoot? Since I'm in a very small space, I have to kind of, in a wedding, hopefully you're in a much bigger space. You won't really need to use a snoot, but I'm in a very small space, so I need to kind of limit the light. Let me just see. Why didn't that fire? Oh, there. Now I didn't have the flash on all the way. All right. Okay, that was on front curtain sink. For this kind of shot, it doesn't matter if you're on front or rear. Let me increase the flash power a little bit. I just need to get the exposure right. Okay. Let me use a lower ISO. I got to turn off the lighting in here. I'm almost there. More power. That's almost it. Now what I need is a specular. All right, let me just show you what this looks like. Let me do one more. Yeah, that's too much. Okay, that's a good example. So you can kind of see here, right? It's upside down. But I created this swirly effect, but then I froze the action in the center with these flowers, right? Because if I didn't have the flash, everything would be blurry. So let me show you what this looks like without flash. See how everything is blurry there? So what you do is you pop the flash, and it can be front or rear curtain, like so. And you sort of get this. So that versus, so you'll just have to imagine, you'll just have to kind of imagine in a normal setting like a wedding where you're going to have speculars in the background, that shot would be a lot more interesting. Okay. I will go to London one day. I have to get a passport though. I haven't had one in 20 years. What's that? Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong button here. Yeah, see, this is where I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a lot of hands-on experience at weddings doing this technique. But like I said, the flash will freeze the action. So it doesn't matter how long the shutter speed is. Alexa, stop. Anyway, I set off Alexa somehow. So yeah, since the flash is freezing the action, it doesn't matter the shutter speed. So unless you can elaborate why that wouldn't be the case, I think we're fine with 1 or 2 second exposures, long as the ambient light doesn't come up too high. Because I had to be at 1 second f22 low ISO to bring the ambient light down enough to use the flash. But in a wedding, it's usually pretty dark, and if it's not, you need to use an ND filter. I mean, it's a whole thing, right? Okay. Uh, that's an interesting flash attachment. Yeah. A lot of you guys have seen this. These are just can coolers. I just cut the bottom out, right? And then uh, slide it over the front of the flash and use it as a snoot. It makes a great lens holder too for your bag. You can stuff your lenses inside like so, and stuff these in your bag. And then if you need a snoot, you can just pull it off. Okay. I'm really a hobbit. You're funny. All right, so let me. I'm gonna put a link. Okay, here's a link for you guys if you want to be in the show with me side by side, live in the show, and you want to come in. We can see your face, hear your voice. We'll give this another try. I tried to do this last week, and we had some success, but it wasn't quite as smooth. Um, so if you guys want to join, just click that link and I'll see your name pop up, and then I can let you join in. And then it says here, if your shutter speed is too long, the dancers become too blurry. I mean, they are sharp, but there's too much. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I get it. Because like we were saying, the ambient light has to be just enough to expose the everything, but not too much. But then everything would be blurry. So yeah, that makes sense. 1 or 2 seconds. Honestly, if you're using longer than that, your ambient light's going to be too bright anyway, right? So half second to 2 seconds at most makes sense. I could see in some situations though where it's really dark that you could use longer shutter speeds, but in a wedding setting, yeah, I would imagine half second to 2 seconds at most. Thanks for elaborating on that. That cleared my mind a little bit. And John says he made a bounce card from craft paper. Yep. I use a where is it? It's in my other bag. Dang it. I got something similar though that I use. I made mine actually from a box of chocolate. There's a little hard piece of plastic in this box, and I'd use that. Where is it? It was right in this bag. Um, but it's the same idea. Okay, so I have a couple people coming in. Give me 1 second, guys. Oh, Andrew, how you doing? You came in last week. How you been?
Good. I've got kind of an interesting story to tell you once we get going.
Okay, 1 second. Let me switch my screen. There. I mean, if people, normally you can see the chat window together with everything in the one video, but people are going to have to look over to the YouTube chat window instead of the screen. So anyhow, so tell me, what's your story?
Well, I don't know if you remember last week we talked about me upgrading my system, and I was looking at the AM1 Mark III.
Yeah.
And so the day after your chat, I was just looking around at a couple of different photo retailers online,
Mm-hmm.
and I came across a ridiculous deal. The AM1 Mark III body and the 12 to 40 Pro for $23.99 Canadian, which is 1900 US.
Ooh, okay.
So I
So
pulled the
that's
trigger.
yeah, that's a good deal. Um, so basically, because the best I've seen that stuff brand new, uh, that's probably the best price of the year, actually. Come to
Well,
think of
so
it.
it turns out though that when I made the purchase, I got an
Hmm.
email back from the retailer saying that it was out of stock, but they expected stock back in about a week. And they
Yeah,
also said that it was a pricing error, but they were going to honor the price.
no kidding.
So I went, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean that's
So
awesome. So, yeah, that's like bread and butter. The 12 to 40 on the EM1 Mark III.
yeah,
That is a really, really perfect setup, and that's what I used for my shoot when I did the Chinese dancers. I'm
okay.
showing some of those in my live stream. Let me tell you, if you have to do something like that, the face detect in low light with that combination is really amazing. It
I'm
does an
looking forward
amazing
to
job.
it.
Yeah. So congratulations on your new system. I I
Yeah.
I can tell you I was thoroughly impressed. Now if you had bought the M1 Mark II or the M5 Mark III, face detect is nowhere near as good. Nowhere
Hmm.
near. It's
Yeah.
not even comparable. But I have compared the face detect uh, between the like the Canon RP and God, what else have I had? I forget. I've compared it against other competitive cameras, right? Similarly priced,
Hmm.
and it's on par with the full frame like dual pixel face detect of Canon. But I didn't test it low light. But definitely, like you can get down to about just 2 or 3% of the frame is the person's face, and the M1 Mark III will pick it up and lock on.
Well, I'm really looking forward to getting the system and trying it out.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about shooting with it?
Well, I do a lot of landscape stuff, so
Yeah.
the 12 to 40, I mean, on the wide end would certainly be good for that.
Yep.
Um, and just
Even oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh,
Well, I
just
was gonna say,
general photography for other sort of things, uh, some nature stuff, some
mhm,
people, and street photography. So I think it'd be a good combination for
yeah,
that.
and that lens has a really close focusing distance too,
Yeah.
so you can get really close up to any kind of plants or small bugs and things. And even in landscapes, you can zoom out to 40 millimeters and do a pano
Oh,
and get
right. Yeah.
and get really nice shots that way. So it's like I said, it's sort of the bread and butter of the Micro Four Thirds system. The M1 Mark III with the 12 to 40 Pro, uh, that's the best combination. Your next lens probably be the 40 to 150.
I'm looking at either the 40 to 150 or the Panasonic 35 to 100 2.8.
Yes, yes, much smaller. You
Yeah,
will
and
lose some
less
features
expensive.
though. You
What?
can't. You won't be able to use like Pro Capture High
Okay.
or Low. I forget which one.
Okay.
You can use one of the Pro Capture. I think you can use Pro Capture High, but you lose Pro Capture Low.
Mm.
One of the two. You're going to lose in-camera focus stacking and maybe some other features. But I know definitely that's one of them.
Well, that's
So
something to consider. It is a pretty, the Panasonic is a pretty nice lens, and it's quite a bit less expensive than the 40 to 150, but I'll have to really consider whether I can live without those features that you're mentioning
yeah,
or not.
yeah, definitely focus stacking. You probably live without. That's easily done in post.
Hmm.
Stacking the images, but the Pro Capture side that could be an issue if because that's a wildlife lens, right? 40 to 150. or portrait lens. If
Mhm.
you're going to be using it for portrait, then it doesn't matter. But if you're thinking about any kind of wildlife, you get the 40 to 150 with a 2x teleconverter.
Yeah.
We're talking losing pro
All
capture is a big deal.
well, the 40 to 150 with a 2 times teleconverter would be all the reach I would need, really.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, do a little due diligence on that side. I don't know exactly all the features that kind of get dropped off when you use a third-party lens, but I know those two.
Okay.
Okay.
Good
Let me
advice.
pick up Brian. I'm gonna let you go, but thanks for coming in today. Good to see you again. I
You
can only
too.
handle one at a time.
Yeah, I'll drop out.
All right. Awesome. All right, Brian, are you ready? Uh, there he is. This is music, nature with music, or what's your screen name? Oh wait, no audio. There's no audio for some reason. Your microphone icon is on, but you probably have to go into settings on the app and find which microphone the computer's using. Still no audio. I got nothing. Nobody can hear you, right? Ah, I can't lip read. Ah, let me show you my screen. There should be a button down here like this. Oops, not that one. And then you select which audio microphone, like that. Somewhere on your app. Whoops. There we go. Ah, sorry, Brian. Still no audio. I got nothing. So we'll see you later. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe if you figure it out, come back in. Ah, wow, that sucked. John Yutze had the same problem last week, but yeah, come on in. If you think you got it fixed now, John, you should come in. And you have some pretty awesome images on your on the Flickr group this week. I was skimming those just before I got onto the stream, and they were pretty nice. Where's my? Yeah, there we go. So, hey, John, there you are.
Hey, does it work?
Yeah. You sound good. You're working now.
Oh, great.
Oh my God. So, um, you had a lot of pictures of like some doorknobs and things on the Flickr group, the Rob Trek Community Flickr group. What was that all about?
Well, that's a kind of an interesting place. There's a place in the city where I live that when somebody tears down an old house or they decide that they're going to renovate it or repurpose it, that they try to capture as much of the old hardware and doors and windows and all sorts of things that they can. And then basically they make it available, which is to say they make it for sale for people who are doing period restorations of homes. And so they want all the, the hardware and the finishings and so on to be period correct. And so if they need something that they don't otherwise have, they can go to this place called Architectural Salvage and see if they can find what they want. And they not only have hardware, but they have, I mentioned doors and windows, but they also have mantles and just all kinds of stuff. It's an unbelievable place.
Wow.
So we went out one day and asked them if we could run around and shoot the place. And they said, sure, have at it. So it was kind of something very different for us.
Huh. That's amazing. Where was this exactly? Like, is it
This is in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus? I'm sorry, you said that. Wow. Because I've never seen. I was like, wow. I was just looking at them. I was like, it seemed like these were kind of for sale, but it didn't quite make sense to me. Who would buy these old doorknobs?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of old neighborhoods from 19th century and early 20th century where they have all these old homes that they were kind of getting into decay. And what happened was that people went into these places and started buying them up and restoring them. And so now they're kind of, gentrified neighborhoods, I guess you'd call them. In some cases, pretty upscale. And so this is kind of a supplier for people who need the hardware to restore these old homes.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty neat. If you could tell me one more time, where are they getting the original hardware?
Well, if there's a house that for whatever reason is going to be torn down, or if they take an old building and they decide that instead of restoring it, that they're going to renovate it using modern components, or they're going to repurpose it to a lawyer's office or whatever it happens to be, then they're more interested in having it be functional in a modern kind of way than they are keeping the old restored character of the original home. And so those are the two sources, the tear downs and kind of the rehabs where they get their stuff. And then people who want to restore, instead of either renovating or repurposing, have a place where they can go to get things that they're missing.
Wow, I'm just curious how, because things move so fast here in the metro area where I live. I mean, you can't park your car overnight because there might be a building on it the next day. But I see it all the time. That's one of the big differences that I feel like between here and Europe is we tear things down with no regard to its history or any kind of nostalgia value, right? And especially in this area, it just breaks my heart when I see. I remember several different places where there was these really neat houses that were, vintage period type houses that were kept up in its original form. But there was a mall surrounding it, right? And then eventually, whoever the owner was sold out, either passed away or sold out to the mall, and they just leveled it and made more parking space.
That happens here too, and it's really kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
This area is very much a growing area. It's very healthy economically.
Yeah.
And so we have apartments going up all over the place, and you have these kind of mixed facilities that have retail on the first floor, and then they have either apartments or condos on the upper floor. And it's, unfortunately, there are some of the suburban towns that never saw a development project that they didn't like because it's tax revenue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, they're willing to sacrifice some of these older places in the interest of development and more tax revenue. But every once in a while, you'll have some group and hopefully they get buy-in from the city and the neighborhood and so on, where they decide to if they're not going to restore something, then they'll repurpose it to something that really adds to the community, but maintains the historic character of the building. So, for example, there's on the east side, there's basically an old trolley barn. It was an area where they stored the old trolleys overnight. They
Mhm.
did maintenance on the trolleys and so on and so forth. And of course, there haven't been any trolleys around for a long time, so it just sat there and went to seed. And some people have bought it, and they're going to turn it into kind of a neighborhood, farm market, and some little
Ah,
shops and so on. So that's really a cool project. We kind of shot that too. But some of
yeah.
these other things, you have to go out and shoot them if you can get into them
Mhm.
before they tear them down.
Yeah.
Because once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah. I mean, we have Old Town Alexandria here where I live, and a lot of the buildings have these plaques on them that indicate these are historic structures and you can't do anything to them. If you need to do any kind of repair, they have to be original as
Yeah,
possible, right?
right.
Whatever the rules are. And I met a contractor while I was out photographing. He was working on one of the houses, and he told me all these interesting stories. This used to be George Mason's house, and this was his guest house, and Thomas Jefferson stayed here. I don't know. He was telling me all this history. I can't remember exactly. Um, but he was replacing the wood on one of the gutters or something, and he said, "Yeah, I have to replace it with wood because that's what it was originally." Um, and everything has to be original. But then around the corner, they tore everything down and built these massive condos,
Yeah.
right? And concrete. And while they were building those condos, they discovered some old ships that were in the water,
Huh.
like just the frames, obviously. But uh, so they stopped development. They excavated one or two of these ships, and as they were excavating, they found more and more and more, right, of ships that were just kind of sunken under the water. But at some point, they said that's enough. Two or three ships is enough. The rest, pretty much the same thing. We don't need to dig those out. And they continued development. So yeah, like you said, you have to kind of get there before they're gone. I have a picture of some things that will never be back that I thought were amazing. Um, and that's it. Just like I said, I had one YouTube vlog where I just talked about that. I said it just makes me sad inside, and I see things just get torn down. I don't mind they repurpose things and maintain it, and if they have to modernize it a little bit, but just to level it and build a glass and steel building just breaks my heart.
Well, and on the East Coast, there's obviously, a lot more buildings from an earlier era,
Yeah.
from, the certainly the late 18th century, if not earlier, and into the early part of the 19th century, which we don't have in our area because, the Ohio wasn't really settled until probably close to the mid 1800s to any degree.
Hmm.
So we don't have stuff from the 1600s or the 1700s.
Right. Yeah, we don't have a lot of stuff from that era either. They're far and few between. And I imagine a lot of our buddies in the UK and Europe are laughing because they're like 200-300 years old. That's my house, man. We got stuff here that are 1,000 years old or whatever. We got castles, from the 1400s. I wonder. They're. I thought I saw a YouTube channel or something that did castles in the USA. Are you aware of any?
Well, actually, we have at least two that I know of in
Hmm.
Ohio,
Wow.
and they were built from I mean some rich person decided that they wanted a castle, so they built it.
Huh.
It was that kind of thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
go back to the Knights of the Round Table or anything like that. So, it's not nearly of the vintage of the castles in Europe, for example. It's more of a vanity project, I think.
Yeah, like Disneyland, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we got one of those here at the National Harbor. It's just a I don't know. I don't want to talk about National Harbor. It's just an atrocity, in my opinion.
Well, I enjoyed. I'm glad that I was finally able to work out the mic
Yes.
problem and get on today. So
Yeah.
I'm going to leave and go back to the chat in case there are
Okay.
other people who want to get in.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, John. Good to talk to you.
Great to see you.
I'm going to try Brian again. You have audio yet, Brian? Nope. No audio. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. Maybe plug a lavalier mic into your laptop separately, or if you have one, that might work. I'll come back. Let me catch up on the chat a little bit if I can. I saw a comment here by Leon. Yeah. Wow, that's a long time to be in the ICU. So I hope she gets better soon. Because I remember, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since you emailed me the first time about that. So I'm sorry to hear that. I hope she recovers. And Lauren is here, and Randy. Good to see you guys. Yeah, Marco, come on in. Just if anybody wants to come in, just click that link. I'll put it in one more time. Just click that link and I'll put you in the queue. I'm going to just try to have one person at a time on, but come on in. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, I see Marco's come in. Let me flip screens here. I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick. I see. Marco had a wedding in a castle in Rye. That's interesting. Okay, well, Marco's here. You can talk about that.
Hey, what's going on, Rob?
How you doing? Let me fix my window real quick. There we go. All right, everyone. This is Marco. He runs actually a great channel here on YouTube, Hot Hardware, where he talks about computers, and he live streams every week, and he does reviews on computer hardware. And we've had a live stream together maybe 6 months ago about what computers are good for photo editing. And I think most of that still applies even 6 months later, even though prices have probably doubled since then.
Yeah, things have definitely gotten nuts in the
Yeah,
tech space with all the shortages.
how is the audio sound when you were watching before, when I had the guests on? Was it okay?
Yeah, it was good. I'm going to switch over to my headphones so you guys don't get any echo. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah, I'm not getting an echo now, but
Okay, should be good. I'm all set on my end.
okay. I just turned the volume down, and I'm using this boom mic.
Gotcha. I just got the Rode mic to do some video, but I didn't hook it up to my PC yet. This is the one that has USB-C also, so you can connect it direct to camera or use it on your PC. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Did you see the video by Casey at Camera Conspiracies about not using a boom mic?
Yes, I watch every one of his videos. He's getting a little nutty on his other channels, but yeah, I love that guy. What
the heck was he talking about? I didn't think the boom mic sounded that bad. I mean, whatever, he didn't really elaborate too much on using an XLR mic instead and hooking up a separate preamp or whatever to go into the computer. I mean, that's a pretty expensive setup now. It's not just the microphone.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was just how that different mic handled the reverb in the room to make it sound more realistic.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was getting at, but I might not have the nuance correct there.
Yeah, he was talking about that, right? Like he didn't want to put like all this foam up like I got all over the place.
Like my office is a disaster. If you guys could see like 2 feet to either side of me, it's just piles of computer crap everywhere. So this USB mic is really the only way to get decent audio. I have to just be right on the microphone.
Yeah, yeah. I got mine as close as I can, I guess. Yeah, proximity to the speaker is the number one factor in terms of audio quality, regardless of the mic.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been struggling with audio the last vlog where I was at the laundromat. The audio was not bad, but the few before that, God, it was just a nightmare because I didn't have my lav mic. So I was putting the little thing down here, open mic. It's terrible.
So I'm not really set up with a proper studio here, but my wife and I are planning to move. And one of the goals is to have a proper studio always set up for photos and video. So I just invested in some stuff. I got that new Rode NTG, but these, you might want to check these out because like I was looking, these are the Hollyland Lark 150. It's the dual channel lavs with the receiver. And, it's cheaper than the Rode. It comes with this case that charges everything at once. I tested the quality and it was really decent, even with, not the best preamps on Olympus cameras. Right. So for the money, I mean, they're not super cheap, but they're cheaper than the Rode and they worked really well so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen, I think Jimmy did a review on that too.
I didn't see his on those. Okay.
I need to, so I'm waiting for them to send me a free one.
There you go. It's tax write-off. It's for work.
Yeah. It's like, I'm all about free stuff. So any companies out there, send me your lenses, your cameras, your mics, stuff
Rob,
like
just
that. So
chilling for the
tell me
free
about your
hardware
studio.
right now.
When you said photo and video, what do you mean by photo and video?
So for all of my articles, I have to take all the product shots, right? So if I write about something, I took all the product shots in that article. And right now I really am all about efficiency. So I have a, folding photo studio basically, because I don't have a ton of space, with a white background. So if it's, if it fits in my little photo studio, I can get decent shots and it's great. But if it's something, bigger or, I want to do something more stylized, I don't have a good setup. So I want to have one area where, my background's not just this wall. I want to have a nice, more interesting background for video when I'm live streaming or doing, interviews or whatever for the site. But I also want, a dedicated photo area just to up the photography game in the articles as well. Right now I'm really half-assing it and fixing a lot of stuff in post, and I don't want to do that. I want to do it right, so that's all.
Right. And once it's set up, like you said, you'll have an efficient workflow and you can produce quality images quickly, right?
Exactly. If I can just open a box, put it right where the studio is and snap some shots, save me a ton of time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I have my studio set up for primarily live streaming. So I can just kind of sit down and turn on the computer and I'm ready. Right.
Yep.
So it's much, much more efficient. And for my Zoom live classroom things, I'm getting there, but I might have to rearrange everything. Because my problem now is I'm down to just my one monitor basically. So all my chat's way over here.
Right.
So I'm not looking at the audience anymore. When before I had things set up kind of this way. So I was just like this, but so I'm trying to create a better viewing experience, right?
I see. I need to do that too. I don't know if you could see right here. This is the edge of my monitor. So my camera's off to the side. So, I look at the camera. I've trained myself to look at the camera, but I'm not seeing what's going on my screen right now. I have to look this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I even thought about one of those reflective glass things that you can put in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So you're looking.
I would love it to be like just above my monitor, so you could see, more of a 3D space of the office, but it's just too much of a disaster in here right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky, but I don't know. Most viewers, I think they're kind of fine with, like I was watching the video about Robin Wong, his worst camera purchase ever, right? The Insta360.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been using all year for my vlogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, yours is he had some really messed up. The background was really flickering weird on his. I don't remember seeing any of yours.
I did get that before. But there was, because he's really trying to go for those cinematic specs, right? The 180 shutter angle. He bought the 1-inch mod, all of that. I just used the basic. Where is it? Oh, charging up. I just use this, I got the small rig cage for it, so when I need to swap batteries, I can just take it out and swap batteries, and the batteries are numbered. And then I swap batteries and put it back in, and I'm good. It lasts me about an hour per battery. So I can usually finish most vlogs with 2 extra batteries than the one on here. I rarely need to go to the 3rd battery. And they have something called basic mode. So basically it's program mode. The image stabilization, the defishing, and all of the other corrections are all done in camera, and I can use the file directly. Mm-hmm. And his complaint was, he was recording and he had to download them into the computer, then process them through the desktop app and export them so he could actually edit them. And if you want to do color grading and you want to use the 180 shutter angle, you had the ND filter on there. I mean, if you want to do all that, yeah, these are not really made for that.
I was workflows. Why do you use it? Just the portability? Because the M5 III is so light. Like I have one that I rarely use, but I would think you'd want to use that since you have an EM1 also.
If I was going in low light, I would probably definitely use the other the M5 Mark III, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm usually this is actually a lot more portable, right? And durable. Like if this falls,
that's right. I forgot who I was talking to.
And I've dropped this thing a few times.
Yeah.
This is an all metal cage, right? Really thick metal cage, and I don't have it. The only way I would probably really damage this is if it fell directly on the front. And I did have a metal ring on the front that kind of protected it a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I need to get that back on here. But that's why it's durable and it's very compact. And then I just put the Rode mic on top, right?
Gotcha.
It has hot shoes here. So I have the Rode mic this way. I have the Rode mic on top and it plugs in the side. And I'm good to go. And I plug the other lav over here.
Right.
And then if I need a video light, there's another hot shoe on the side here. So I can plug my video light in over here if I'm going to do anything at night. I rarely vlog at night now. I'm just too paranoid, but
gotcha.
Yeah, for the longest time, this is how I did vlog. EM5 Mark III with the 12 millimeter lens. And this isn't bad either, right?
Yeah, that's what
I have the fear.
Same setup here. I mean, I don't have the handheld, but yep.
My biggest fear is I got like 1600 12 millimeter lens is like $600, right? You got $1,000 camera,
right?
I just don't feel easy putting this behind me while I'm looking this way.
Sure.
I'm looking in one direction.
I just got that crazy deal. I got the 12 millimeter, a 25 millimeter, and a 45 millimeter, all three for $270. So I was like, I'll take it for that price. Listen, I'm going to let you go because I have a 12 o'clock call, but I'm glad I was able to jump on. I will see you soon.
All right, awesome. Man. Good to see you, Marco. We'll talk to you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, that was fun. We haven't seen Marco in 6 months, right? Since he was on the last live stream, and it's good to see nature, at least Brian, with just your face anyway. Sorry we didn't have the audio. And I'm really glad John got the audio thing worked out. It was good to have you in. But okay, I think I'll call it here. Let me just double check the chat section and see. Yeah, you know, Randy, that would be cool. Because you have a pretty elaborate setup, right? When you're vlogging. Well, I mean, by elaborate, I mean it's not your phone. You got different cameras set up, so that would be cool. Yeah, maybe next week, you know, maybe have a way we can see everything you're doing and how you do it, and all the gear you have. Because I know you have a lot. You have a lot of Nikon stuff too, right? Your DF, which is awesome, stuff like that. Since when is it possible to join? I don't know. I just figured why not? I have a button here to invite people. So if you guys want to come in, you know, I put the link in the chat section. But yeah, it'd be good to see you, Roman. Because, you know, what's funny is like when Randy came in last time, he didn't look anything at all like his thumbnail, his little icon, right? Because in his icon, he's got a mustache and a hat. And then we see him in person. It's like no mustache, no hat. You know, it's like, is this Randy or not? Right? It is Randy. I could tell by his voice, and his eyes were very close. Jean Marc is here. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. You'll have to catch everything in replay because I'm going to call it here if no one else wants to come in. But as always, thanks everyone for joining me today. I appreciate it. It's always a lot of fun and highlight of my day. I will be back next week on Tuesday. I don't know if I can do the photo editing stream this week again because I have some other photo jobs coming up. But either way, it's always fun. We'll see you guys next time. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this outro thing. Oh, there's no outro. So I'll just have to end it with this other button, end stream. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again soon.